Welcome to Changing the Channel with Joe Garner, a show about shifting our individual and collective beliefs on what is possible for the future of humanity. As our understanding of how our reality continues to shift, we are at a point of reunification between science and spirituality. What does the world look like when we break free from the generational trauma that has kept most humans playing small for thousands of years and step into our full power as the co-creators of this reality? I always ask that you keep an open mind with this podcast. Ask yourself what resonates with my truth at this time and what does not. Respect your intuition, but see if you can get through the whole show because there might be that little nugget buried deep in the conversation that unlocks something for you. Welcome back to Changing the Channel. I am joined today by Daniel Burrus. He is a futurist on global trends and disruptive innovation. So welcome to the show, Daniel.
Hey, thank you.
You're welcome. I'm very excited. I kind of venture myself as a little bit of a futurist. I meditate. I can tap into kind of future timelines. So I'm excited, and I always enjoy these conversations with people who have that same ability and who have, they're making such a huge change in the world. I love to see that. So maybe bring us up to speed. What was that venture, that journey like to becoming a futurist, and what is the process for you in tapping into future predictions and what you see coming down the pipeline for humanity?
Sure. Well, the two most important moments in a human's life is the day you're born and the day you find out why you were born.
Mm,
And I am very fortunate to have long ago discovered why I was put on the planet, and that is to teach. So rather than to tell, I would rather empower by teaching. And with that said, just very quickly, long ago, I started out teaching. I taught biology and physics. Matter of fact, as an undergraduate, I was the first undergraduate in the country to direct a federal research grant. I say that not in a bragging way, but rather in I'm a researcher. I like to, find out what's going on. And I taught for a number of years, really enjoyed it. But I also was entrepreneurial. In college, I was the lead guitarist in a rock band. I ran the band and we actually made money. So I kind of liked that part too. So I had an idea for an airplane design. And in the summers, because I was a teacher, I built it, test flew it, and ended up with 37 national locations in the first year. Really great plane. Started another company, another company, another company. All of them were doing extremely well. But I started realizing I was missing the teaching element.
mm,
So I looked into my future, and I've been doing that since I was a kid for some reason. I think I realized when I was pretty young that I was going to spend the rest of my life in the future. Maybe I ought to think about it a little bit.
hmm,
So I took myself out to being 95, and I asked myself, if I keep doing what I'm doing, am I happy? And the answer was no. So I knew right away I had to sell those companies. And I didn't want it to be an anchor. So I actually sold them for less than I could have gotten had I taken longer. But once I saw that the future that I was on the path to do was not the right future, the sooner I get on the right path, the better. And I wanted to go back to teaching, but I'm the kind of guy that never goes back. It really can never go back. You can only go forward. I ride a Harley Davidson, and one of the reasons I like that motorcycle is there is no reverse.
right.
So what I did was I decided to use one of the principles that I teach in my books and in my writings, and that is to take your biggest problems and skip. So one of the problems I didn't like about teaching was the limited size of the classroom. So I decided to skip that problem and make the classroom planet Earth. And I didn't like the limitations of university or an academic setting because they were limitations to that. So I decided to not work for one, to work for me. And I started a research company, and now we're getting into answering your question. I spent a year after selling those companies, which I did very quickly, really looking at all areas of technology. And by the way, we're talking, get this, 40 years ago. So this is 1983. And I researched all areas of technology, lasers, robots, genetics, fiber optics. By the way, all of those things existed at that time, but they were in the very early stages. And I came up with this taxonomy of high technology, this way of organizing it, thinking about it. I came up with my methodologies. And since then, I have written 7 best-selling books that are in 14 languages. I've given actually around 3,500 keynote speeches around the world, and I've been being a teacher, basically.
Right.
So methodology, let's get specific because now I'm going to be a teacher, all right, and give you a key breakthrough that has changed how people look at the future. And that is that there's no shortage of trends. The problem is which ones will happen and which ones won't. And I have solved that problem with being able to divide all trends into one of 2 categories. They're either what I call a hard trend based on a future fact that will happen. By the way, that means it can't be changed.
Hmm.
And so in other words, that's how you find certainty in an uncertain world. It's far more than death and taxes. And then there are soft trends. And soft trends might happen. They might even be likely to happen, but that doesn't mean they're a future fact. And the advantage of both, the advantage of a soft trend, you don't like it, you can change it. The advantage of a hard trend, you can see disruptions before they disrupt, allowing you to have a choice to be a positive disruptor. I'll talk about that more later if you'd like. And to be able to see problems before you have them so you can pre-solve them. And frankly, as we're all going forward, if we're not seeing predictable problems and pre-solving them before we have them, you and I and everyone else listening and watching this will not be happy campers on planet Earth.
Finally, a place for listeners to gather and share. Join the Ascension Update Substack for messages and updates from our brothers and sisters helping with the Ascension, articles on the future of humanity, and a Q&A where you can ask my guides anything you would like. This is the hub for everything Ascension related. Click the link in the show notes or go to joegarner.substack.com to stay at the leading edge of this movement. And now, back to the show.
Let me give you a couple quick examples, just and then I'll let you jump in. So a quick example of a hard trend. Let's take technology. Wireless. We went from 3G wireless to 4G wireless. Now we have 5G wireless. Is that it? No, we're going to have 6G followed by 7G. By the way, future fact. Some of us don't like AI. We'd like to kind of shut it down. That ain't going to be shut down. As a matter of fact, it's going to be growing at beyond exponential rates from this point forward. But we can shape it. Now, will it be used for increasing bad things or not? Will it take away all the jobs? And I would say, well, that's a soft trend. You can do something about that, or you can let it play out. It could happen. So by separating those, it's really important. And one other thing that I think is important is to really be thinking global about it all, and realize that we're no longer in a period of change. We're now in a period of profound transformation. By the way, it's not all just digital.
Right.
And let me explain that. See, a lot of people say they're transforming something when they're really just changing it. And today, if you're changing things, you're actually falling behind because we're no longer in change. So let me put it this way. Change always comes from the outside in, forcing you to react, put out fires, crisis manage. Transformation, whether it's a personal transformation or a business transformation, always comes from the inside out. If it's not coming from the inside out, you're not transforming, you're changing something. And so you have to look at, first of all, where is it coming from? And by the way, I love transformation from the inside out. That gives me some control in my future. And when I first started writing, speaking, consulting on this 40 years ago, my first big concept I want to share with everyone here, the concept of future view. And here's what that is. How your kids, how your employees, if you have employees, how your friends, how we view the future. to a great extent, shapes how we act in the present. Let's face it, some people right now are buying Apple stock because it's down. Some people would never buy Apple stock. What's the difference? Future view of Apple. Some of you that might have employees, some of your best employees might be thinking of leaving. Why? Their future view of staying has changed. Some kids are going to college. Some kids are going to drugs. By the way, future view. So how you view the future shapes how you act. And by the way, how you act will shape your future. Therefore, your future view will determine the future you. And what I have found, Joe, is that everyone is undershooting on their view of the future. So one of the key things that I've been doing is elevating people's future view, not on motivational zip boom, ba, rah, rah, rah stuff, but on helping them instead see the unbelievable opportunities there are for all of us on planet Earth to not be passive receivers of the future, but rather to be active shapers of a better future for yourself and for others.
Right, and that's part of that transformation that you talk about is the transformation from victimhood to manifester is how a lot of people kind of talk about it, where you stop being the victim of the circumstances that you've been born into, and you start becoming the manifestor, the creator of the reality that you want to see. And do you see this happening more and more across, the global community? Are more and more people waking up to their ability to manifest, to create, to build the future instead of being a product of whatever happens in the future?
I do see that happening more and more, but it's not happening fast enough at all. That needs to be changed. And I think the key is to realize again, have I came up with this methodology to help people understand there is a lot of things, thousands of things you can be certain about. And the reason is when you have certainty, you have the confidence to make a bold move. When you are uncertain, you're stuck. One of my books, not my last one, but the one before this, was called Flash Foresight. And the subtitle was How to See the Invisible and Do the Impossible. And the idea there is that humans have been doing the impossible ever since we set foot on planet Earth. Let's face it, there was not the internet one time. Matter of fact, at one time, there wasn't a chair. You had to find a stump. There wasn't glasses. So we've been doing the impossible as humans ever since we set foot on the planet. How do we do the impossible? Well, when an invisible solution to a seemingly impossible problem becomes visible, we have a flash of foresight that allows us to go forward. And obviously in that book, what I did is came up with 7 triggers that makes the invisible visible, allowing you to get unstuck and move forward where you were stuck before. One other thing I'll just tap into in our discussion, because I think it fits your name of your podcast and what you're trying to do. And in the few minutes we've been together, me getting to know you just a little bit. And this is something I do personally. And that is I tap, of course, we have our conscious mind, right? Then there's the subconscious mind, which I use quite a bit. You can do a lot with your subconscious mind. For example, I gave a keynote speech in Las Vegas to 20,000 people not long ago. And before that speech, the night before going to sleep, I really was meditated on what I wanted to do and what I wanted to do, how I was going to move them emotionally, no matter whether they're CEOs of companies. You know what? We're all human. And I needed to be able to touch them more deeply, to be able to move them into a new direction and elevate their future view. So what I did was I really focused on them and their issues and their problems and concerns. So I became one with them. So I was not an outsider. I was now an insider. And then I went to sleep and let my subconscious work on it.
Hmm.
I've done that with thousands of speeches. And by the way, the next morning I wake up and I have an amazing number of new insights. As a matter of fact, a lot of times I change totally what I was going to do right the morning of before I do it because of using a totally. As a matter of fact, there are many times where I put some graphics together. I'm getting on stage, and as I'm walking on stage, I just think, and I do something completely different than I was going to do because I had an insight just before walking on stage that was too big. to ignore.
Hmm.
Tap into it. One other thing, I mentioned conscious mind, subconscious mind. I tap into a third thing that is really important, the superconscious mind. And the superconscious mind is where you're tapping into everybody on the planet. And you can really do that. They might say, how can you do that? Well, it takes a practice, takes a discipline. And I've been doing this practice discipline. It's called superconscious meditation. Actually, I've been doing it for probably 55 years now. So it, I use a lot of tools. I use scientific research. I use all these new technologies. I'm an expert in AI. I'm an expert in all sorts of different tools. But if you're not also thinking about the human being
Right.
and people, because we live in an increasingly technological world, but you know what? We live in a human world, and technology is not good or evil. It's what we decide to do with it.
Exactly. Yeah, I say that all the time that it's not the thing, it's not the technology, it's not the invention that is evil. It's how humans decide to use it is that's what makes it good or evil. And from any perspective, that seems to be true. So, and I love the idea of the superconscious mind tapping into what I call the collective consciousness of the planet and being able to really understand, okay, you know, what would happen on a societal wide basis if we go down this road, if we go down this road, if we go down this road, and really trying to feel into that. And it's been interesting to see. I believe that this ability, and most people who teach super consciousness and tapping into the subconscious mind believe that all humans have this ability to tap into that. They just have to. It's like any muscle. You have to train it, you have to work it out, you have to get on a regimen to be able to tap into that super conscious mind and be able to tap into the collective consciousness of the planet. And through doing that, it gets easier and you get better at it. And as more humans, I think, tap into this super conscious mind, we become better at it as a species. So we start to evolve as a species towards this super conscious ability. So what some people would call telepathy, being able to actually tap into the understanding and consciousness of other human beings without having a verbal communication with them. And some people call that empathy. I think empathy is just like the very beginning of this process where humanity starts to evolve. And what's your perspective on the evolution organically versus inorganically, the evolution of technology versus the evolution of humans being able to do what the technology is doing?
Well, they are definitely linked because we can use it a little bit. We can use it very unwise in an unwise way. We can use it in a very bad way, or we can use it in an amazing way that would make your heart grow warm. Again, technology is it's just a tool. It depends on how we use it. But to back up just a little bit to something that you said just a few minutes ago, I think of it this way. When we are all born on planet Earth, when we're born, we're all connected. We haven't started out hating each other,
Hmm.
and we're all connected. And as we get older, as we age, the more disconnected we get from each other, the more problems can erupt. We can get to where we have fear, we can get to where we have anger, we can get to where we have hate. It's the disconnecting from each other that is the problem. It's not the connecting. And again, to get a little more philosophical about it, another way to slice and dice and think about it is, we've got our physical body. There's the body. Think of it with threes: the body, the ego, and the soul. Let's just think of those three things. All right. I'm being philosophical, but let's do this for a second. Play with me on this. So, when a captain of a ship and they're having a problem on that ship, they don't say how many egos are on board. And they also don't say how many bodies are on board. They say how many souls are on board. Um, so, are we really connecting at the body level? Are we connecting at the ego level or connecting at the soul level? And I think one of the powerful things I've been able to do, again, in my learning systems and my books, but especially in my speaking, because I'm there physically, is to connect at that soul level versus at the body level versus at others by really connecting. I'll give you an example. The last time I was speaking in Russia, which was just before the Ukraine war, don't know if I'm going to be there until that gets settled, but last time I was in Moscow speaking, I was speaking to the top 200 executives in the entire country. And of course, it was all being translated into Russian. And then when we got to the question and answer part, of course, I had to put in my earphones so I could get a translation from the translators of what they were asking. The first question was, um, are you of Russian heritage? You know so much about us. Well, the reason he said that is because I got to know them. I did my homework ahead of time, and I connected not just on a technological level, but on a deeper level. So I think it's powerful. One other little thing you mentioned as long as we're into it, um, almost all of our problems, whatever they are, and barriers keeping us from moving forward, can be found by looking in a mirror. Look in the mirror. There's the problem. It's not this person, that person. It's not my company. It's not my boss. It's not my husband. It's not my wife. It's not my kids. It's not the fact that I don't have any money. No, 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 no. Those aren't the limitations. It's your mindset. And to change a mindset, you actually have to look at your beliefs. And if you can change your beliefs, you can change your mindset. If you can change your mindset, you can change your future view. And it's extremely powerful. For example, if you believe that, there's just not any good jobs out there. I'm looking for a better job, and there's just no good jobs out there. Well, that's a belief, and that belief shapes your mindset and shapes your actions. By the way, you probably won't find a good job, but
Right.
if you believe there's uh, abundant great jobs out there, you have an abundant belief system and mindset. Well, you're probably going to find something. You see where I'm going? So I want us to be, if you get right down to it, all of us, active shapers of our future. And where it comes to technology, why do I focus on being a technology forecaster and futurist and disruptive innovation expert? Why have I saddled myself with that? And the answer to that is technology. It lets us do something that was previously impossible. Uh, Again, it can be used for good or for evil. And we got all these amazing tools. So what I want us to do is to become aware of the tools and use them to create a better tomorrow for ourselves and for others. And when it comes to disruption, I want us to be positive disruptors, creating the transformations that need to happen to elevate our relevance, to accelerate positive, sustainable growth and abundance for you and for everyone else.
So let's get into some of those ideas. I think starting with AI is probably, most people are very fixated on the idea of AI. They either have a fear mindset of AI, or they have this is the future of humanity. This could unlock so much potential in the human society, in the global society. So, what is your perspective on AI? How do we use it for the good of all humanity instead of, again, this separation of humanity?
Yeah. First of all, there will always be bad people doing bad things. That's, and by the way, I want to protect and defend against that. I want to understand what are the things that I need to put into place to make sure that I don't have a problem. But at the same time, uh, the good people will do amazing things. So the way I look at it is, I may not be able to stop all the bad people from doing all the bad things, but I'm not a bad person. I'm a good person. And my guess is everyone listening and watching this is a good person. So what I choose to do is to do positive things with it, to do transformational things, not just changing things. I want to transform education, not just change it. I want to transform healthcare, not just change it. I want to transform Pickett, and you get the answer. And I want to create a more connected, more enlightened future with AI. instead of one that is less. Now, again, there will be forces doing negative stuff. Well, I can't control that. I want to do what I can do. I want to impact what I can impact. So that's number one. and uh, Number two on AI, I was interviewed by um, a interviewer in February, and the question was, "Will humans be replaced by AI?" And my answer is, humans will be replaced by humans using AI. Now, what I mean by that is, we will have a little thing in our ear because AI can have all of this analytics and research and know all of this stuff that we can't keep in our heads. It's really good at doing things we don't do well. It's not very good at empathy. It's not very good at the things that actually we've been talking about in the last 20 minutes or so. Um, it's not good at the human part. That's where we shine. So what we want to do is combine that. And let me give you an example. All right. At this point in time, AI knows more about oncology than any oncology in the individual oncology. Now, again, and that's the treatment of cancer. It's that AI has learned every research, everything that's ever been done, all of that stuff globally knows it's got it all right there. So let's say you know someone that has cancer, heaven forbid, and I'm going to give you three choices. Choice number one, a really great oncologist. Choice number two, just AI. Choice number three, a really great oncologist that has access to AI. Bingo, there's the future.
Yeah.
And by the way, could a plumber do that? Well, yeah, yeah. As a matter of fact, that's how I get instantaneous online training. I got training right in my ear, but where I can just talk. I don't have to look at a computer. I don't have an iPad. I don't have to look at any of that kind of stuff. And as a matter of fact, if in the case of plumbing, I might have a little band on my head with a little, uh, you know, 4K, or if you look in the future, 8K, or look in the future, 16K. You go out from there, little thing like that, so that I could say, now take the screwdriver and turn the red knob to the right. You see, so whatever it is, whether you're farming, whether you're harvesting, whatever it is, we can get assistance and help. So rather than so here's what I would say is going to be big: augmented thinking. AI will augment our thinking, not replace it. And there are redundant tasks that we do that AI can help us with right now. As a matter of fact, there are many things that AI can help us with right now. I have a AI report that you can get for free. I'm not selling you something. And what I've done is I've reviewed since January 3,000 AI tools and came up with the top 5 AI tools, by the way, inexpensive tools in a number of categories that most people don't even realize, including CEOs, that you can do with it right now. And what it can do, first of all, is get us 80% to where we want to go, whatever it is, really fast, really fast. Uh, Not 100%. Think of it as a first draft digital assistant, not a last draft digital assistant. It's 80% there fast. But the last 20% is super important. That's where you want to check your facts. That's where you want to add you and humanity to it. It's a machine. There's no humanity in there. It doesn't know your stories. It just doesn't know people at a deeper level like you know. Well, that's the human part. That last 20% is gold. So the beauty is, instead of starting at zero, I can start at 80% and get there, whatever I'm trying to do. You got a problem, first place you go. Why not go to AI, whether it's ChatGPT or any of the other tools, and ask it first and see, again, what insights you can get from it. Am I going to like everything? Well, no, I don't need everything. All I need is a couple of key insights. So I'll give you a couple of examples just so that everybody knows what I'm talking about. Let's say you are wanted to write some marketing copy for something that you sell. It's really good at marketing copy. Go into a program like ChatGPT. There's other ones, but start there and put in what you want to do, and it will give you some great marketing copy. And again, it got you 80% there in 20 seconds. Now you refine.
Hmm.
Let's say you've got a graphic that you want to create and you want a royalty-free graphic and you want it to do and look like a certain thing. Tell it what you want it to do. You don't have to type. Tell it what you want it to be, and it'll create that graphic. That'll take about 60 seconds, maybe 90 seconds. And if you don't like it, keep changing it and modifying it till you get it to where you want it. Then you can you can do that with all sorts of different things. But again, it's getting us up to speed so that we can add our humanness to it. It's
Right.
getting us 80% there fast. If people want to take a look at that report, and by the way, I've got case studies in there of how people are using it, you could go to AIstrategyreport.com. And it's easier if you put a small a, small I strategy report. It'll get you there really fast. Download it, no cost, just go for it.
Cool.
So you'll find a lot on AI. So that's if you haven't tried it or used it, a great place to start, of course, is go to chat.openai.com, get yourself an account. Then I strongly recommend you pay the $20 a month for the plus version. And always go to the top and click on 4.0, that version. And you will find amazing things that it can do. Experiment with it. Remember, it's only getting you part way. You've got to add your humanness and the things that we've talked about in the beginning of this interview, the things that make us human, the things that make us connect, the things that make us one. That part it is not going to do for you.
Right. So do you see AI basically as this precursor to a collective consciousness on the planet that kind of almost unites us all in our understanding? So as one human is learning, we're all basically learning because we're benefiting from that intelligence, whatever that leap in intelligence is.
Well, if you think about it, it is always going to be a type of silicon life form, not a carbon life form like us.
Right.
You know, we're fundamentally different. So we are not going to be totally merged in terms of the word consciousness.
Right,
Um,
right, right.
that's going to take us to do that. However, as an enabler, yeah, I mean, let's face it. Before January this year, I have my books in 14 languages, but they're not in every language. Now it's easy to make them in every language. When I am doing a report or I'm doing something and I'm speaking like I am now, it could be Mandarin that's coming out.
Mhm.
Um, and even adjusting my lips so it looks like Mandarin. Well, hey, that's expanded my reach truly to a global. Well, see, I couldn't even do that a year ago. So again, what is it doing? Um, your podcast. Well, obviously, that report you should be downloading, taking a look in there, and that could be your global podcast that you're doing, where you're taking all of your interviews and everything and putting them in all sorts of different languages. I mean, on LinkedIn, I've got close to 1.3 million followers, very global. And but most of them up till January had to know English to really benefit from what I was sharing because I do a lot of sharing on LinkedIn of strategies. That's why I've got so many followers. However, when I start doing it where it can be multi-language, obviously I can expand my impact. And what I want is not from an ego point of view, but from a transformational point of view. I want to expand my positive impact uh, so that I can help to unite us all and elevate our future view and create a more ideal future for ourselves and for others.
Yeah, and that's definitely my perspective on technology as well. It uh helps promote the positive ideas in society and get them out to more and more and more people. And when it hits an ear that resonates with that, they have so many different ways to connect with you to be able to get that information and be able to follow you or get on your email list or listen to your podcast or download your blog or all these different opportunities to continue to share this information. And yeah, eventually, as we augment a little bit more, assuming that's the way that we go, then it'll be almost instantaneous. Like I
Sure.
said, you'll be able to upload, download. You'll be able to get all information available to all humans almost instantaneously. And that again improves that carbon-based collective consciousness. Now, do you see ever a point where we don't need the silicon consciousness and we evolve as a species to be able to do this kind of collective consciousness without the need for AI and internet and, all of the silicon based technologies that we're doing at this very moment?
Yeah, well, I mean, if you all of a sudden, if you and I could not do any kind of search, so we'd have to go back to Encyclopedia Britannicas. Uh, it would slow down innovation, and it would slow down the things that could be positive as well as negative. Again, there's the yin and the yang, right? The positive and the negative, but it would slow it down. So I see that AI is going to, because it can do things you and I can't do as humans.
Yeah.
And by the way, us humans can do things AI can't do. It makes for a pretty good combination again, it can be used for negative things, but it can be used for positive things. There's another thing that I talked about, hard and soft trends, right? And there is another thing I'll mention that is, I put it in the category of a soft trend. Doesn't mean that it won't happen. It just means it's not a future fact that I think is already starting to happen because of the bad guys using AI and the AI tools getting better and better. And that is, I think there's going to be a global crisis in trust. Because again, you could make an AI that looks like you or I saying things that you and I never said, or a president or a prime minister or whatever. It takes, just seconds to be able to copy a voice. So that, you could have your son or daughter call you and say, I'm in jail and need money. But of course, it isn't that person at all. And I think already it's hard to know. I mean, we've got in the United States, I think we've got 80% of the people are getting their news from the internet, which is one of the reasons we got a problem because none of it's vetted like the traditional news channels. So a lot of disinformation, which is, by the way, believed misinformation out there. And I think the crisis in trust could, again, this is a top trend, it could make us turn away from social media and a lot of the digital content that's out there because it gets so bad for us all that we can't trust anything digital. And the result will be, only thing I can really trust is when I'm together with you, eyeball to eyeball, face to face. It may have us go back to saying, I want, I want an analog phone, not just a digital phone. Things like that.
Right.
So we may go in another direction to a more human connection again, versus where we are now, because trust becomes at a crisis level where, holy cow, I can't trust anything anymore. Well, there are things we can trust. We just can't trust it, in a digital world. So that's a soft trend, putting that out there, making sure everybody understands that. However, it's could very well happen because of the power of being able to create all these digital fakes and all this stuff. So that's something that keep your eye on it.
Yeah. And does it go back to, again, the individual? Again,
Well, it goes back to relationships where that it's uh, we are physically together. Hey, by the way, we used to do that. We used to to fly to conventions and be at them. Now people are doing that now, but if I'm on a Zoom, am I on a real Zoom or I'm all the people I'm on the Zoom with, not Zooms at all, and some bad guys that are faking the people I'm supposed to be talking to? Well,
right.
can I trust that? By the way, that could be done. Actually, that could be done today.
Hmm.
So, and by the way, we're not even talking about tomorrow, which it's going to be better. So we're going to have to really think this thing through, and how do we really verify and how do we really know who we're with? By the way, let me give everyone in here a little tip they should do with their family and friends right now, especially with their family. Right now, it is easy to copy a voice, very easy. And especially if there's been people talking on the internet, like your kids or family members. So what can happen is, again, someone can call pitching you something that sounds like the person you trust, but it's not them. what you should do right now with your family members is have a family code word that you use. Some kind of a code word so that if somebody in the family is calling needing help and needing money or whatever they need, just say, "What's the family code word?" And if they don't know, it's not them. Frankly, you should be working that out now. I'm just giving you a little tip.
That's fascinating. It is quite the time to be alive at this point. So,
It's a great time to be alive. And by the way, am I optimistic or pessimistic about the future? Oh man, I'm optimistic. I'm not pessimistic. I'm optimistic like crazy. Couple of reasons for that. We have already tools that can solve every problem we've got. Climate change, we got the right tools. We have to look at what there's accelerators and there's brakes. Accelerators move us forward, brakes slow us down. Governments, not just in the United States, but all over the world, are slow. They're not, they're crisis managers. They're not opportunity managers. And they're getting way behind and of course, slowing up a lot of these tools. But it doesn't mean the tools aren't there. And they're being used regardless of what government is doing. They're being used anyway. So A. Secondly, as I travel, not just in the United States, but a lot of travel around the world. By the way, I've got 6 million air miles. So I have been around. All right. I've been around this planet many times, given speeches in 52 countries, not to mention vacations, because I like to be with my global brothers and sisters. So I get around. And in my getting around, um, man, am I excited about young people. There are so many bright bulbs out there. Now, I'll admit there are some dim bulbs, but there are so many bright bulbs out there that are excited about building a better tomorrow. And they're sharp and they're smart. And man, they are not thinking change, they're thinking transformation. I'm telling you right now, I'm excited about the future, even though we have all these things that look so dystopian. Well, if remember your future view. If you think the whole thing is going to hell, your world probably will.
right.
You better start changing how you think because remember what I said in the beginning, your future view will determine the future you.
Are you familiar with the quantum idea that each one of us is experiencing our own personal reality and our beliefs and patterns are creating that future for us? And because essentially where we're at in quantum mechanics is that the conscious being that is experiencing reality is creating the reality right in front of them based off of their own beliefs and patterns. So in that world, each one of us could live one could live a dystopian reality moving forward. One could live a utopian reality moving forward. And there's 8 billion of us, and each one of us gets to choose. Am I going to move towards the utopian society, the dystopian society? Am I going to move towards a solar punk reality? And each individual, you get to choose which reality that you're about to experience. That's part of the quantum game that we're playing in the physical reality. And it just goes back to what we were I think the first point that you made is that it starts on the internal and the internal changes the external. It starts with transformation from the inside out, not from the outside in. That's how you create this better reality, this better future, this better kind of utopian, all of humanity benefits in this
Sure.
space.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And remember, I said in the beginning, I taught biology and physics, so I do get the quantum, concepts. And yes, as a matter of fact, it's playing out right now for all of us as you speak and as I speak. Um, I'll give you just a real simplistic example of that. I have a guy that I know, and we both are in Southern California. I live in San Diego. By the way, I also have a place in Wisconsin. I've started all 6 companies in the Milwaukee, Wisconsin area, better taxes than California. But I, of course, have a place in both places. And you might guess what time of the year I'm in one place or the other, just based on seasonality, right? And in San Diego, we're in an area called Del Mar, which is north of San Diego, and it's a upscale place. All right, it's people that usually have money are up there, and my friend was saying, "Boy, everybody is so rude, and their drivers are us cutting me off, and it's I don't like that Del Mar area at all. It's just everybody is that's snooty and all of that kind of stuff." And now, my experience during the same time frame in Del Mar is, man, gee, if people are stopping and letting me in. I don't see that at all. I see wonderful people around me, and I experience wonderful people, and I have a completely different experience than my friend at the exact same place and time. Total different experience.
Mhm.
Now, I'm giving you kind of a simple example, but it's an example of, what do you see? What are you as I travel around the world, I find wonderful things everywhere I go. By the way, if I was looking for hell, I could find it. If I was looking for heaven, I could find it. I can find whatever I'm looking for. Be careful what you're looking for. Be careful of what you expect. Be careful of what your view is. Again, that will help shape what you do, what you experience, and it comes down to what are your beliefs? What is your mindset? And by the way, those things can all be changed, but only changed by you, not by somebody else.
Right. Yeah.
And there's also lessons that we're here to learn. And we either learn them or we don't. And, so would you like to learn them or do you want to be stuck? Is your past an anchor holding you back? Are you dragging along this big chain with an anchor behind you because of all the things that held you back is continuing to hold you back, or have you freed yourself and realized, I can't change the past. I can learn from it, but I can't change it. Only thing I can really change is my future, and I can actively shape it or passively receive it. By the way, I'm really shocked at how many people are passively receiving their future versus actively shaping it.
Right.
So I've devoted my entire career of getting people to become active shapers of a positive future, not just for themselves, but for others around them. Because, well, that brings up one other little point I think it'd be good to make. And that is, I was giving a commencement speech at a major university. There were, all these people getting their various degrees. And one of the things I said in the beginning of the speech is, I don't want you to focus on living a successful life. And of course, and I let it sit for a second because I'm sure that kind of, set them aside because they were all thinking I'm graduating and they all had their little success view. And I said, well, here's the problem with success. Success is all about you. It's about how much money you make, how many degrees you have. It's about how big your house is. It's about what kind of car you drive. It's about all that. It's all about you. What I'd like you to do instead is live a significant life. And every year elevate your level of significance, because significance is not about you. It's about what you do for others. So if you can elevate what you're doing for others, what'll happen? You'll find it's a pathway to being far more successful. So success, rather, that's the goal. No, significance is the goal. Success is the result.
Right. Yeah, that's a beautiful message. That significance plays such a much more profound role when you have that lens as to what you're moving towards. And I think a lot of people, especially in my generation, are figuring that out. They had material success, but felt empty inside. They didn't have fulfillment
Perfect. Perfect.
whatsoever. And
Exactly what
and
I'm getting at.
and there's a massive movement in my generation from material success to how can I help people become better people? How can I move people from getting out of this victimhood mentality into a manifestor, into a creator of their own reality? And you've experienced that, for the last 40 years, which is, amazing to see what happens. The amount of success that you can have when in your 20s or 30s, you make this jump instead of making this jump at 50 or 60 or
You
70.
can make it any time that you want. Matter of fact, that's why I was giving it as a commencement speech. Do it now.
Right.
Do that now. One other thing I said in that commencement speech I'll share that might be another thing for people. And I said, I know you're all graduating now and you're thinking big about your future. And now I'm going to talk to you, by the way, and all of our listeners and viewers. And I said, remember when you got your last degree, whatever that was. You were probably thinking about your future. And I'm looking back, thinking about mine. When I was graduating the last time, long ago, I was thinking big. But now that I look back, you know what? I realized, wow, I was thinking way too small.
Hmm.
Why? Because there's always a bigger big. Right now, for everyone, I want you to hear this, everybody, you're thinking too small. You're thinking big, but there's a bigger big. Focus on the bigger big, by the way, and think about what I said just before this about significance. But what I have found is we come up with this big idea, this big view of ourselves or what we can do or our career or whatever, and we get really busy doing it. But, and that can take a long time and it might or might not work out. Before you get all busy doing your big thing, stop for a minute and step back and just say, wait, what's the bigger big? What's the significant bigger big? And here's what I found. It's always easier to do the bigger big and it takes less time. So I'm telling you right now, everybody listening to this, everybody watching this, you're not thinking big enough. So play those two concepts together, significance and the bigger big, and whoa, you'll see your future getting a lot brighter.
Do you feel that there is a guiding spirit, a guiding essence that allows you to start seeing the bigger big that you're here to play? That, um is there emotional and chemical responses in the body that allow you to say, "Hey, this is my path," or from your perspective, I mean, just from a practical perspective, like how do you know, okay, that bigger big is the right way to be going?
Well, a couple of things. One, your biochemical and emotional elements, and you will get a lot more excited about that bigger big than just the big. Secondly, um, it's kind of like when you know it, you see it. When you see it, you know it. It all of a sudden it's like, oh, that's it. And it takes a little thinking to get to it. You don't get to it, boom, just like that. It takes a little bit, but you can tell I'm getting closer. I'm getting closer. It's almost there. I can almost see it. And all of a sudden, bingo! All right, there it is. And that's how it will be. And the uh, and I think as far as hard trends and soft trends, again, if you want to learn more about that, you could go to Burrus, BURRUS.com and learn more about that. But hard trends give you certainty, and certainty gives you the confidence to make bold moves. So, what are the hard trends shaping the future, especially the future that I'm interested in creating? What are those hard trends and related opportunities? And is there one of those opportunities that stands out that becomes that bigger big? And there's a way to do it. One other little thing I'll throw out there, as long as we're at a personal level talking about it to all of you, and that is that all of you have multiple talents. No question about it. I haven't met all of you, and Joe, you and I have just met, but I already know, Joe, you've got multiple talents. You got more than one talent. And talents are good. I mean, they're fun. We're talented. We can make a living off of our talents. But with a talent, you can only go so far. Then you start peaking out. And by the way, if you're sick today, we can get another person with the same talent to do it because you're sick. On the other end, all of you have at least one special gift. And a gift is different than a talent. Now, by the way, if you don't think you have a gift, well, then you won't look for it. And if you don't look for it, you surely won't find it. But if you take my word for it, you do all have one. You really do. You have one. And when you have a gift, you can get better and better and better. Even when you're 90, you can get better at 91. You can get better at 92. There is no limit to it. And by the way, if you're sick today, we can't find somebody else to do what you do because you're using your gift. You're not using a talent. You're tapping into something on the inside, not just on the outside. It's more than just a skill. Part of it's a mindset and some other things that are very powerful. So part of our journey in life, in my mind, is to figure out what is our gift. And I'm saying this from personal experience. Started a number of companies, and I was doing things that I was talented at, and having fun doing the multiple things I was talented at. But they were actually keeping me from using my gift. It wasn't until I realized, wait a minute, I'm getting seduced away from using the gift. And when I got back focused on the gift and directed the talents to not pull my away from the gift, but rather direct the talents to support the gift, it created, think of it as a thermal that allowed me to soar without flapping my wings. I would like, as a homework assignment, not just get into ChatGPT and check it out and look at that, but I'd like you to really think about what's your gift. And by the way, if you don't know right now, that would be normal. It's a journey. Take a little time, and you'll get closer and closer, and that also will help you find the bigger big.
Beautiful. Well, Daniel, so many wise words today. It was incredible to have you on the show. I think my listeners will gain such a huge perspective on just what to expect into the future, and then how to prepare themselves to live in that future, and not just live in the future that is coming, but create the future that they want to see. So, beautiful messages all around. I really appreciate you coming on. You've gone over the majority of your websites. I'll make sure that I link them in the show notes so anybody can find your report on AI, your website, and I think I've got a couple other links there that you sent over. So, again, really appreciate the time today. It was a wonderful conversation, and hopefully we'll be able to talk again at some point.
You got it. Thank you.
Take care. Thank you again for listening to Changing the Channel with Joe Garner. If you enjoyed the show, please follow the podcast, hit the bell to know when a new show comes out, share with a friend, and rate us on whatever platform you're tuning in from. It helps get these messages out to more people to create the collective shift in reality we are here to experience. Make sure you interact with the Q&A and poll sections of the show so I can continue to provide content you enjoy. Finally, check out my website in the show notes to become a VIP of Changing the Channel and join the shift that is happening.